What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Atlantic Files, the number one podcast on the number one division in the NBA, brought to you by the Underdog Sports Podcast Network. As always, joined by your host, myself, Alex Fishbein. We got Mike Bash, we got Dennis Clausen, the whole band back together. What's going on, fellas?
What up? What up? Just like Kyrie is back, I'm back.
I mean, I don't know if you want to be back like Kyrie.
Guess who's back?
Doesn't
Back
that doesn't
again.
sound that great.
Guess who's back? Tell a friend. Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Guess who's back? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the next words. I suck with lyrics. I don't remember lyrics at all. So
I'm glad you forgot the words.
Anyway, so for those of you at home, for those of you watching, we are here to talk about the free agency period that's going to be starting very soon. There's already been some news going on. We're going to be talking about Kyrie. So, for all of you watching, stay tuned. We're going to get into a lot of good stuff. I'm going to say it right now so that it's not at the end this time. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe below. Hit the bell for notifications when we go live, because we go live at different times, and we're posting videos all the time. On Twitch, also, follow us on there. We're also on there. Get your notifications when we go live on Twitch, twitch.tv/The Atlantic Files. You'll see that as well. We are also everywhere you get your podcasts, so make sure you subscribe, rate, share it with a friend, do all that. I'm telling you right now, before we even get into all of this, because you need to go do that.
Assholes.
Exactly.
Just fucking do it.
Otherwise, Dennis is going to show up at all of your houses and call you assholes.
And then eat a sandwich. So make sure you
Exactly.
have pumpernickel bread, liverwurst, and boar's head bologna.
what is wrong with you, man?
And mustard.
And water ice. You gotta have water ice.
And water ice. Thank you.
But let's start things off with your two favorite player. Kyrie Irving was the center of a whole lot of drama lately. Kyrie not only was the center of drama off the court, he's the center of drama on the court all the time. If he's going to be playing, if he's not going to be playing. The last few days we've been hearing about maybe sign-in trades. The Lakers apparently had some sort of package centering around Russell Westbrook to trade for Kyrie Irving. The Nets didn't like it. So there was some sort of rumor that the Brooklyn Nets straight up told Kyrie that they didn't think he was dependable enough. But all in all, Kyrie opted into his player's option. He's back at Brooklyn right now. But what do you guys think? Is this like the end of these rumors? Is it just going to go back to normal? They're going to find who they need to build to their team and that's it? Or is something else going to happen here?
With Kyrie Irving, everything is open-ended. There's never an end to anything, whether it's drama, whether it's playing, showing up, whether it's his leave of absence. There's never an end with Kyrie Irving. There's always something. My hope is that he shows up, plays his ass off for whatever it is, 6 months, 8 months, and wins us a Larry O'Brien trophy. He does that, he can go wherever he wants, whenever he wants. I don't care after this year. But as of right now, I'm counting on him being a new Brooklyn Net. I almost said New Jersey. If we were to trade him, I don't know what we'd get for him. I kind of was getting excited at the hopes that we were trading Kevin Durant for a package of like superstar young players and picks, but that didn't happen. So we'll see what it is. My mood on this kind of changes by the hour. Kind of how Dennis feels. Probably in a similar way with Kyrie Irving. One second he loves him, the next second he hates him. But I'm hoping the big three, and yes, I said big three. Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, Ben Simmons can get on the court together. But there's a lot of time between now and October, or November, whenever the season starts. So it'll be interesting to see what unfolds. But I'm happy that he's opted in for right now, at least.
I don't think this is the end to this by any means. I think this is only the beginning. I think him opting in is just going to be the start of
Something
turmoil
new.
that's going to be coming. So my whole concern about this entire thing, though, is Kevin Durant hasn't really said a lot. He hasn't really indicated what he would do if it comes to this. But I mean, Brooklyn's 110% correct when they say he's not dependable, because he isn't. Between off the court issues, constant drama, just a pain in the ass, very injury prone, whether it be he's legitimately hurt or he just doesn't play through injuries. It's a combination of both. He's not an easy guy to get along with. His teammates aren't quite fond of him a lot of the time. There were rumors that Patty Mills was waiting to see what Kyrie was going to do before he decided whether he wanted to go back to Brooklyn. James Harden, even though he didn't play the best and he, looks like a shell of his former self, he's gone because of Kyrie, even though he, really never you knew that's what happened. So, yeah, I think this is just the beginning. I think Brooklyn still has leverage on what they want to do moving forward. It's beneficial to both of them, Kyrie from a financial standpoint and Brooklyn from a standpoint in terms of they can get something out of him instead of just losing it. So, yeah, I don't think this is the end of it. And quite frankly, if Kevin Durant, if he wants to go too at this point, if he doesn't see that his buddy's an issue, there's a problem there, and I don't really want him on the team either.
Yeah, I mean, there has to be something in Kevin Durant's head being like, all right, there's something weird or something troublesome happening here with this team. Like the whole reason everyone banded together in the first place was because the team looked like it should have been an unstoppable force. They were always the favorite the moment both of them joined Brooklyn. This past season, they still were looked at as the preseason favorite and everything like that. So the fact that none of it has even come to fruition, even close to fruition, then you got to start looking around and saying, what exactly is the issue here? And Kyrie Irving is one of the biggest parts of the issue. So.
And I was going to say, too, like you said, they were favorites early in the year. They were in the play-in, and people still were saying that they were going to, myself included, that they had a shot to win it because they had Kyrie, and there was rumblings that Ben Simmons was going to come back, and KD and all that thing. So, I mean, they were a clear favorite throughout pretty much the entire season. It was always contingent, is Kyrie coming back? If he comes back, it's over. Kyrie and KD, they can't be stopped, and they were stopped pretty easily by the Celtics.
Yeah, I mean, going from, title favorites to then play-in, and still a lot of people giving them the chance to be the first team to go through the play-in and get all the way to the finals, and then getting out of the play-in and getting swept is a big difference. And on top of that, Kyrie, KD together was huge. Then they had James Harden for a little bit. That was even bigger because then it was like, all right, these three together, it like literally should be the best team ever assembled. That just fell right apart. So now the big thing with Kyrie to me too is that this whole time when there was the rumors of Brooklyn saying like, oh, Kyrie is not dependable, and Kyrie got like offended that they thought he wasn't dependable. And it's like, well, look at your track record. Your track record on Brooklyn is not dependable. Not even looking at your previous track record where you still had injury issues beforehand. But now on Brooklyn, not only do you have injury issues, but you had you wouldn't get the vaccine, so you didn't play for the longest time. Then you didn't play home games for the longest time. And sure, you can blame that all you want on like the mandate of New York and everything like that. But then you go back to Andrew Wiggins, who also had the same belief that he didn't want to get the vaccine, ended up getting it, ended up winning a championship.
Yeah, you got to look wherever Kyrie has gone. He's been a problem. He was an issue. Him and LeBron didn't see eye to eye in Cleveland. He had issues in Boston. It's the same story with him. Unquestionably, the guy could be an MVP.
Right.
He could always be in the conversation. He's on a Luka level. He's on a Giannis level when he's healthy and when his mind is in it. But his mind obviously is not in it, and that's what has always been his downfall.
Oh yeah, and that's always the thing, is that he gets sidetracked by all these different things going on. And don't get me wrong, like I definitely think that athletes and people with a bigger platform should use it to speak out against injustices, whatever it may be. But you should still also be doing your job at the same time, not just pushing basketball away from the side or away to the side and doing all these things and trying to stand up for what you believe in and everything, and then getting offended that you're not being dependable. Like that's a huge disconnect there that just no one is ever going to see eye to eye to that.
Yeah, but you got to question the legitimacy too of some of the things he stands up for versus when it comes to him playing. Like, based on his years of inactivity and conduct issues, you have to say to yourself, does he really feel that strongly about the COVID vaccine, or is he just looking away to get off the floor? I mean, we've seen him get hurt, and, guys have played through the same injuries he's had over the years, but he wasn't available. You've seen... so it's kind of like when you want to get bereavement time at work and you say your uncle died, and you haven't talked to the guy in 10 years, but you're like, hey, my uncle died, I get a day off. You know what I mean? It's that kind of thing.
Right.
Like, do you really feel that strongly about it, or is it just you're looking for a way to not play? And his what his intentions may be good. He may believe that way, but based on what he's done in the past, he's kind of lost credibility. Actually, he's not kind of. He has lost credibility. But we're talking about a guy who's, averaged 22 points a game, shooting 40% from deep, and eight assists. I mean, he's a great all-around player. He's probably the best ball handler you'll ever see in your entire life. I don't think anybody's a better ball handler than he is. His dribbles are insane. But he's just an idiot.
Yeah, I mean, the only person who's going to stop Kyrie is Kyrie.
Like, you nailed it. You nailed it 100%.
Yeah, it's just at this point, he was a player too that I thought was going to get a bunch of MVPs, Finals MVPs, scoring titles, all these kind of things, because I mean he legitimately is one of the best scorers in the league too, and the injuries, the sitting out on his own, the missing all sorts of team activities and all that kind of stuff, like it's all things other than injuries. It's mostly things in his control, so it's just doesn't look good on him.
I mean, but it's sad. He's only 30 years old, so he has time. Like, if he went back and linked up with LeBron, that wouldn't do his legacy any favors. If he stayed in Brooklyn, actually were able to bring a championship to Brooklyn, and enter the MVP conversation, because this guy, when he plays, he doesn't even look like he's putting in any effort whatsoever. But no. And I mean that in terms of, I mean it in two ways. One, he doesn't look like he's putting in any effort, because I just don't think he wants to be there. But two, when he does things, he does it so effortlessly because he's so talented that he's one of those guys. He he could not pick up a basketball between his last game until when the very first game of the NBA season and still put up 35 points. Like, he's
Oh
that
yeah.
talented.
Oh yeah. I mean, everything he does looks effortless. Plain and simple. But so I agree with you guys though in the long run that this definitely isn't the end of all things Kyrie in Brooklyn. Like, it's not just like, okay, they're gonna ride off in the sunset now or anything. I also wouldn't be surprised if this opting in then allows them to trade him somewhere, just because then he only has 1 year on his contract now. So I wouldn't be surprised if something still happens with Kyrie and this is just kind of like a, all right, stop talking about it for now, so that we can deal him later on.
Yeah, this ain't over by a long shot. We got a big period in the NBA is coming up. Free agency. There's going to be tons of moves and everything. This ain't over.
Nope, not at all. So one of those moves that is going to happen, apparently, John Wall working on a buyout with Houston. And then he's planning on going to the Clippers. Obviously, we haven't seen John Wall really play a competitive game of basketball in a very long time, as Mike does John Wall's famous dance that he hasn't done in also a very long time. What do you guys make of this? I mean, is it even going to matter that much? Is he even going to play? Is he like, I don't know. To me, it's like, who knows what even could happen.
Well, I think he's going to play, but I don't know what to expect from him. I mean, could he put up 17, 8, 4? Like, yeah, could he put up numbers like that? Sure. It's John Wall. I mean, he's a super talented player, and he's not going to be asked to be the go-to guy like he was in Washington. He's going to be asked to be the third guy behind PG and Kawhi in no specific order, but he's played 40 games in the last 3 years. He has an Achilles injury, which we know, except for Kevin Durant and Dominique Wilkins or whoever the other guy was. Like, that's a debilitating. I think he had a Achilles injury. It's a debilitating injury. So we have no idea what he's coming back and like what his level of play is. Do I think he should be a somewhat decent starter for them? Yeah. Does he give them a good point guard better than like Reggie Jackson? Yeah, probably. But he's not a guy that pushes the needle like he was in Washington. I think people are getting a little carried away with the expectations for John Wall, at least from like the players on the Clippers and whatever. So it'll be interesting to see, but I don't think we're seeing All-Star John Wall or even like, borderline All-Star John Wall. I think we're just going to see a guy who can contribute at the NBA level, and the guy can get you 12 to 15 points a game, 5 to 7 assists a game, but not anything crazy, not like a max level player like he was previously.
Right.
Yeah, I'd be really concerned if I were Clippers fans too, especially. I mean, that's got street clothes written all over it. When you look at Kawhi, can never stay healthy. Paul George can never stay healthy, and now, but the thing is, Beal did stay healthy for up until his last 3 seasons in the league, but he was staying relatively healthy. So it's going to be interesting, though. It would be a definite upgrade for the Clippers, especially if they can get him for really nothing. He doesn't need the money. He pretty much is going to get his entire yearly salary from the Rockets minus $6.5-7 million. So he's not hurting for money. So he can sign in LA for peanuts. They're getting a bargain out of it for sure, and they're getting a guy who, if he produces, great. If he doesn't, well, you didn't really go out on a limb to acquire his services. But like Mike said, way better than Reggie Jackson. So
yeah,
especially too if he can come back to being the guy who can 17, 18 points, 8 assists. He can't shoot the best. He's never been like the best 3-point shooter on the planet, but he's a good finisher. Gets on the inside and he can play defense. Relatively
think his
well.
Shooting probably over the last 3 years where he couldn't play all that much, but he probably practiced somewhat. You know what I mean? Like probably just shot around during. I would feel like we're going to see the best shooting John Wall we've ever seen.
Yeah, I agree with that too. It might come at his shooting numbers might improve, but he might lose some of that explosiveness, finishing
sure.
on the inside. But yeah, no, I could definitely see. I could definitely see him losing some of his. I don't know. I think I'm all for it. I think he can definitely return to some type of prominence.
Speaking of the Clippers, did you guys hear the big free agents are re-signing they had earlier today? Ivica Zubac. I think Dennis is a huge Ivica Zubac fan.
He's gonna
agreed on a 3-year, $33 million extension after they declined his $7.5 million team option for 2022-2023. So, so he's getting a jump in pay, $11 million a year for the starting center, Ivica Zubac, one of Dennis's favorite players.
And he'll play his usual, 18 minutes a game.
Exactly.
For some reason, I don't know what it is. Does he have some secret ailment that we don't know about? Because for some reason, wherever this guy goes, he'll play 21 minutes a game, and it's like, this guy does he have like a something like that prevents them from wanting him to play more time? Like, what's going on here?
That's a good question. I don't know. He literally, because he usually produces some quality minutes when he is in.
Does he have that disease where he can't sweat? If he sweats, he dies. Those people who can't sweat. Does he have that?
He played 24 minutes a game last year.
We're talking 24 minutes. You think that's a lot of minutes?
No, but it's been going up every year, so I'm thinking he probably gets to 27, 28. All right,
year. But I'm saying 18 minutes. I mean, I'm not really that far off. I mean,
6 minutes is 1/8 of a game. I mean,
but he should be playing more than
you're off by 12%.
Okay, well, I'm saying 6 minutes because I'm not getting in a math war with the accountant. So, but I'm saying, sometimes you see him, he's played 18, 20 minutes a game. There's been times he's got over 30, but he should be playing more than that. So, you feel like he's capable of producing. So put him on the floor. Who cares?
No, I agree. And I will say real quick about John Wall,
24 minutes. I'm sorry. He played 24 minutes a game.
I will say real quick about John Wall, too. If that means shifting someone like Reggie Jackson to the bench or whatever it may be, that's also, big for them. Even if it's John Wall coming off the bench, because what they had when Kawhi and Paul George and everybody was healthy, then that could have been something truly big. But as we found out once they got hurt, the depth wasn't that bad. The depth of the team was actually pretty good. So it's just kind of like, hey, maybe you add a couple more pieces, those two get healthy, and then bam, you got yourself a pretty good contending team.
Well, it just makes me happy though that even the Knicks can't get John Wall.
Well, that's because they're going after Jalen Brunson.
Which that's not even a guarantee to happen. So
his dad works for the Knicks, and they just cleared all this cap space. It is guaranteed to happen.
Well, we'll see.
It's as guaranteed as you not walking past the ice cream sandwich in the freezer.
I'm not walking past an ice cream sandwich. I'll tell you that. But the Mavericks could offer him more. So you never know. Maybe he doesn't want. Maybe he looks at it.
And honestly, if I'm him and I want to actually win, I'd probably stay with Dallas rather than go to New York.
Right. Just because they hire his dad doesn't mean anything. I think that's like a desperate ploy by that team to get him, but I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to end up there.
Yeah, I agree.
Dennis, you want to bet? I'll bet you he ends up there.
Oh.
I'm not saying there's a great chance he would be going to New York, but I'm not going to rule out him staying in Dallas either.
Okay. Tyler asked if he was late. Maybe just a little Tyler, but we're glad to have you here.
Yeah, Tyler.
And then he said John Wall's going to have a bounce back career with the Clippers.
I kind of feel that.
What bounce back career? What are we talking about? He's not like he's 24 years old.
No, but he could still play well later into his career if he's one of those guys that kind of recreates his game. Like Vince Carter, honestly, like no one thought he was going to last that long being one of the most athletic players, and then once you get older, losing all that athleticism, but he changed his whole style of play and played on until he was like 40. So maybe John Wall does the same. Because he's definitely not going to be anywhere near as fast. That's for sure.
No, but he's another one of those guys that he's just instinctively he's just good. He's talented. So as long as his body can hold up, I don't see why he can't be a contributor for the Clippers.
Like he could be like a Rondo type, especially with his passing and basketball IQ, and then just being able to be disruptive on the defensive end because he's still tall and lengthy for a point guard. So
yeah, but I still think he has plenty left too on the offensive end. So I agree with Tyler. I think he might surprise a lot of people.
I agree. So that being said, moving on to two guys who, as of right now, are staying put: Bradley Beal, Russell Westbrook. Beal apparently going to sign some sort of big extension. Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, right?
What just happened?
I got a cold chill. I'm sorry.
I was like, did something just scare you?
No.
He's possessed now.
I got like a cold chill in my bones.
He heard Bradley Beal and the devil took over.
No, I'm good.
Signing some sort of extension, and then Russell Westbrook opting in, staying with the Lakers as of now. As I said before, apparently the Lakers offered some sort of package surrounding or centering around Russell Westbrook for Kyrie Irving. Bradley Beal, we haven't exactly heard what's going on that trade front just yet, but obviously that trade front has been rolling on pretty heavily, especially since last offseason. So, what do you guys think? Do you think they stay? Do you think they leave? What's your thoughts? Dennis, we'll start with you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I mean, honestly, with Bradley Beal, who cares? I mean, I've heard enough about him. I mean, people say he's leaving, then they say he's staying, then he says he wants to be in D.C. He's played there in his entire career. But what he hasn't done, he's talented as fuck, but he's just not healthy ever. And he's another one of those guys, like, he wants to play this role like he's the most committed guy ever to Washington, but yet he's another guy who's just constantly not available. And you got to question at some point whether is he available because he's legitimately hurt, or is he just not available because he's like, my team fucking sucks, so I'm not even going to bother putting my body on the line, but I'm still going to get paid $100 billion a year just to be on this shitty team. So So yeah, obviously from a financial standpoint, it makes more sense to sign with the Wizards.
True.
But I honestly, if I were anybody in the Wizards organization, I would be looking to move him as soon as possible. Like, he still has some value, especially from a like, not everybody has been fooled yet by the fact that this guy is a walking time bomb. He can't stay healthy. So while people put him on a elite status, you might as well just trade him and get picks or get whatever the fuck you can get for him, because you got to get rid of his ass and very quickly. As far as Russell Westbrook goes, he's not going to get $47 million anywhere else, so of course he's going to top in with the Lakers. I wish he didn't, but you can certainly understand why he did. I wish he went somewhere else. But if Brooklyn is willing to make that deal happen and send Russ to Brooklyn and send Kyrie, I'm down with that. because we've talked about Russell Wilson. I'm on football. We've talked about Russell Westbrook. His heart is always there. He always plays. He's tough. He always puts himself before, or he always puts the team before himself. So he's a championship caliber player. He just was playing for Oklahoma City and the Rockets. So, and now he's in LA. He's paired with LeBron, who's 37, and Anthony Davis, who the wind blows and he tears an ACL. So I think
Dennis
he
clearly hasn't watched NBA basketball for at least 3 years. Russell Westbrook is no longer a championship level player. He's not.
Disagree.
And you wanted to put a lineup out there when we thought Kyrie was leaving and we were getting Westbrook in the deal. You wanted to put a lineup out there of Westbrook, Bruce Brown, Joe Harris, okay, and then you figured we'd lose KD, and you were like Nick Claxton, and I forgot who you put at the power forward.
Ben Simmons.
Ben Simmons.
Yeah, but that wasn't taking it to the.
That team would statistically probably be the worst offensive team in the history of basketball.
All right, but I also wasn't taking it to.
The Henry Sims Sixers teams would probably beat that team offensively.
But I wasn't taking
don't
it to
disrespect Henry Sims. Sorry, go ahead, Dennis.
I wasn't also taking the fact that if Kevin Durant left, obviously you'd have to get a big name player back for him. So that would factor into the equation. But honestly, I would rather have Russell Westbrook than Kyrie Irving.
You're on track.
Well, I mean, at least Russell Westbrook plays.
If they were both playing, like if you could guarantee both of their health and they're both playing,
then you go with Kyrie
I
all
would pick
day.
Kyrie Irving every time. But
you can't, and that's the reality of the situation.
If the wind blows the wrong direction and Kyrie thinks the Earth is flat again, then he might not play for 3 months.
No, he thinks that what's the guy from Avatar, The Last Airbender?
Aang.
Aang is out to microchip all of God's disciples or something. I don't know what he would say.
But yeah, I mean,
the network.
I do think Russell Westbrook in the right situation could still win a championship. I don't think Russell Westbrook could carry a team to a championship or anything like that. But if he's like the number 3, number 2 option, I still think he could definitely do that on a championship team. And on top of that, Russell Westbrook is a player that seems like he's like the ultimate teammate. Like everyone would love to have Westbrook on their team. He's like best friends with everybody he plays with, unless they start, being disloyal to him or disrespecting him or whatever it may be. Then he's probably like one of your worst enemies. But I would agree that if, you're going to get this half season from Kyrie every time that, also doesn't even help translate into postseason wins, then it's like, yeah, why even keep him around? Why not get Westbrook out of it and get somebody that actually can contribute? I mean, hell, Westbrook and KD were great together too.
I mean, when you look at the amount of games that Kyrie has played in Brooklyn, do you really trust? If you're just looking at Brooklyn, do you really trust him to turn it around in his 4th seat? Like all of a sudden, he has a moment of clarity, and he's got his shit together. He's gonna be a new man, and he's gonna I'm not. So if you're gonna offer me Russell Westbrook, a guy who always plays, a guy who's tough as shit, I'm taking it.
Yeah, I would too. Were you zooming in on your Space Jam shirt?
No, I was fixing my computer. I'm sorry.
So yeah, I'm definitely not saying that he's better than Kyrie. I mean, I said before, Kyrie's an MVP caliber player. He could be easily in the MVP conversation. He could easily win an MVP. He should have had multiple MVPs by now. But
definitely.
He doesn't, because he just his heart's not in it. So yep. I'll take Russell Westbrook any day of the week. Bradley Beal, absolutely not.
We talked about Bradley Beal a couple episodes ago, and like I just said, with Bradley Beal, he just has very big loser energy to me. It's just like he's always been on a losing team. He's never really seen any success at all. I don't think he's won a single playoff series, if I remember correctly. So, like, usually when it comes to championship winning teams, the ones that, you know, go from losing to winning are usually the ones that start on that team, and that team grows together and they win a championship. But if there's guys that are losing on one team, then start trying to hop teams to win a championship, those guys often don't end up winning anything because they've never had what it takes to get there. And Bradley Beal, to me, is one of those guys that does not have what it takes to get there to a championship.
He has no idea because he's always been, you know, he's like the guy in the small high school who's the best guy at basketball and everybody thinks he's the coolest guy going. And then he goes to a bigger school and all of a sudden he sucks. And, you know, he's like a big fish in a small pond.
Right.
You know, and the Wizards organization is a complete fucking train wreck. Especially you get Spencer Dinwiddie, and then all of a sudden there's issues with Spencer Dinwiddie, and you send him to Dallas to get Porzingis back.
Meanwhile, Dallas enjoys a very nice postseason and rest of the season since.
Right. I mean, shit. if you're gonna give me Spencer Dinwiddie to get rid of Porzingis, I'm taking it every time.
Let's talk about street clothes. Porzingis is hurt all the time, and on top of that, like, what has Porzingis done?
Nothing. Be hurt. He gets
exactly.
hurt. That's what he does.
Exactly.
Dennis is just on a warpath tonight.
He doesn't give a fuck.
I don't fucking care. Yeah.
But yeah, all in all,
about, you know, like the reason I get fucking so hyped up though is I don't understand why people get. I feel like a lot of players in the league, Russell Westbrook, Spencer Dinwiddie, like these guys are great fucking players, and they always give 110%. When Spencer Dinwiddie was in Brooklyn as the number one guy, like he was responsible for a big chunk of why Brooklyn was semi-successful when he was there. So, like the guy always puts his heart, you know, when he plays. Russell Westbrook's the same. I'm sick of hearing about these Kyrie Irvings. I'm sick of hearing about Bradley Beal. They're not in it. I don't. That's why I don't care about guys like that. And honestly, I know I've shit on Joel Embiid over the years, but after watching him this season and what he actually played through, like the guy showed me. I have a completely different viewpoint on Joel Embiid, to be honest. Even though he does get hurt, he did get hurt, but he played through a torn thumb ligament that needed surgery. He broke his face, but he was still playing.
right.
So
I mean, and that was something that even I, as a Joel Embiid fan, wasn't expecting. Like, I didn't think he was actually going to be able to play through all that stuff. And there he was, still on the court, still giving, you know, the biggest effort he could give. And then you have guys like, you know, Bradley Beal, Anthony Davis, and all these other people that get all these nickel and dime injuries, and they're out for 6 weeks. I mean, Porzingis always out for like 8 weeks at a time.
That's why I tell you the league is going to be so much better once LeBron goes, Chris Paul goes, Bradley Beal, and it gets replaced with the Tatums, the Lucas. You know, Morant's hurt a lot, but he's not a pussy. You know what I mean? So, right. But this younger LaMelo Ball, like these guys. They're not looking to be best friends. Lucas certainly is not looking to be your best friend. There's a different attitude. There's a different mindset with these guys. So once this prima donna group goes, you know, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are just constantly hurt all the time and they want to sit and all that, the league is going to be so much better.
Oh yeah, and the one thing I like about Luka too is like I saw the thing recently where he's already playing international ball and everything. Luka's playing like literally 24/7 all year round.
Right.
Like,
Dennis, it's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better with these guys.
Oh, I highly disagree.
You don't think that these young guys coming into the league are not going to pull the same shit that, I mean, Zion's already doing it.
He was fat, though.
He was fat, yeah. He just couldn't play because
DeAndre Ayton did it. It's going to happen everywhere.
Well, no, there's still going to be people taking rest, especially because there's all the new science and all this new stuff out and all these new ways of recovery and all sorts of stuff like that. Like, there's always going to be something. But there's also has to be some sort of toughness, like in the egos and the minds of the newer players, that when push comes to shove, if you're hurt or not, you're going to get out on the floor and still try and give your team as best of a shot to win as they can. Where some of these guys, as Dennis alluded to before, have just been pussies. And like, trust me, there's some injuries that they have had that I have also had, and I've played like a fucking pickup game that didn't mean shit, let alone for an NBA title.
Yeah, like guys like Trae Young. Trae Young doesn't care who likes him and who doesn't. Same with Luka. That's the attitude you need. That killer instinct. And that goes back to the injuries. They don't have it. Bradley Beal certainly doesn't have it. Russell Westbrook has it. But that's why I like Russell Westbrook 10 billion times more than I'll ever like Bradley Beal.
Right. I got you. So, moving on into just general free agency. Obviously, there's a lot to go on. There's, Boston is going to be looking for some people to add to their team to actually get over the hump, to get back to the championship. The Sixers have been a big, hot rumor mill team with all the PJ Tucker rumors, and after trading Danny Green for D'Anthony Melton, there's, a lot to go on, especially like just in the Atlantic alone. Toronto is probably going to make a move at some point because they're probably 1 to 2 pieces away from really being a championship contending team. Brooklyn, they got to get some more guys around them and finally get Ben Simmons back. The Knicks are clearing cap space like crazy to try and go for Jalen Brunson. What do you guys think? Who are your favorite targets for some of these teams? Who are your favorite guys to move? What do you think is going to happen?
I'll let Dennis go first on that.
Well, I absolutely love the D'Anthony Melton pickup by the Sixers. When I texted you when that happened, because I was like, that's a great fucking move for them, especially when you're going to get rid of Danny Green. As much as Danny Green, he it's not like he's a horrible player, but I don't know, what does that mean? I don't even know what that means.
He's been in the league a while.
He has.
Yeah.
And the fact
he's a great veteran teammate, but also he just tore his knee up. He's not going to be back anytime soon.
Right, and the fact that he's not going to be back, maybe around the All-Star break is what they were saying, but that's probably not going to happen. Mm-hmm. So when you add D'Anthony Melton, yeah, absolutely. When he was in Memphis, he had some really good showings on occasion. So I don't honestly, when it comes to free agency, I really don't care about. It's going to be more exciting to see what the guys like Bridges do and Gary Payton does, and Ayton. Where's Ayton going to end up? You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
right.
Ayton was supposed to go to Detroit, and then Detroit made those moves on draft night, so now that doesn't look like it's going to happen. There are rumblings that Charlotte doesn't want to match an offer on Bridges, so that definitely changes things with that. So there's a lot of guys out there. Bruce Brown, what kind of deal is he going to get somewhere? I would love, when we talked about that, I'd love to see him go to Toronto,
Yep.
But Bruce Brown is a guy that if he went to wherever he goes, he's going to add a lot of credibility to that team, because I think Bruce Brown made that step in his career and he's a legit player. So I don't really care about where Tyus Jones is another one. Um, the best backup point guard in the league.
Dennis bet big on him in Dynasty Basketball.
Hey,
a few pieces for him.
Well, it'll pay off because I think if Tyus Jones gets a starting role somewhere, which he's more than capable of doing it, I mean, we're talking about a guy who's gonna really surprise a lot of people.
I mean, even if he stays as a backup, Melton's not there now, so that's even more minutes for him.
Yeah, but I think some teams should be smart enough. Like if the Knicks can't land Brunson, they should really try to go after guys like Bruce Brown, Tyus Jones, things like that. Like that's what the Knicks need, are those types of guys. But I hope
I could
Tyus
see
Jones,
Boston going after Bruce Brown too.
Bruce Brown. If Boston got Bruce Brown, it'd be huge for them. If they had Bruce Brown this season, they might be NBA champion.
Wojbomb just tweeted out. Minnesota Timberwolves signed a 2-year contract with Torian Prince.
Oh. I mean,
so anyways,
in other news,
right? No, and there's players out there that are going to make a huge difference. PJ Tucker, Bruce Brown, like I said, Kevon Looney. Like those are the guys I'm interested to see where they're going to go because those guys are they're going to make a difference wherever they go in some way or another, and that's going to be the best part of free agency.
Right, Mike. I'll let you go before I go because I have some thoughts about PJ Tucker and the Sixers whole thing.
I saw that. I would love Kevon Looney to come to Brooklyn. So just what we need. That being said, I don't expect him to be there. There's a lot. Yeah, this class isn't loaded with a lot of high-end talent. I mean, you got Zach LaVine, but there's a lot of guys that have sneaky, they can become something in another spot. One guy I'm looking at, and I don't think the Nets are going to get him just based on cap space and stuff, is Isaiah Hartenstein. I think whatever team signs him has a potential guy that can break out, getting his 25 minutes a game.
Well, then Zubac is going to have to play more than 18 minutes a game if he does.
Nick Claxton might leave the Nets, which would really, really hurt my heart. I mean, that is a guy I've been a fan of since day one. He's a restricted free agent, so we don't know yet. I saw guys like Malik Monk. Like this class is a lot of secondary, third pieces that can be a spot up shooter, a good defender, a good big man. There's not that. I don't think there's other than Zach LaVine. I don't think there's a big superstar this year. I mean, Bradley Beal's going to resign. Kyrie Irving's opting in. You might know the list better than me. I just tried to look through the list. There's a lot of good role players available, and guys are obviously going to get paid. I feel like we're going to get 2016 all over again, where guys are going to get paid way more than they're worth just because the class is weak, right. And it might be better to not overspend this year because I know next year is loaded. But I'm looking at Brunson's going to go to New York for $100 million. It'll be definitely be interesting to see who ends up where. But I think there's a chance for some very good role players to find good spots this year.
For sure. And so the one thing I just needed to say about the Sixers is just the whole rumors of them trying to unload all these contracts and stuff, literally just to sign PJ Tucker to a 3-year, $30 million contract. It's not worth it. I like PJ Tucker. PJ Tucker is a great... Exactly. It's not worth it at all. And on top of that, the Sixers don't need to get older. They do need a player whose prototype is around what PJ Tucker is, but that was what they did with Melton is what they need to do. Get somebody like a PJ Tucker, but who's much younger on a much better contract, who's a just easier bench piece to get. Because when it comes to Tucker, it's yes, he contributed a lot to Milwaukee. Yes, he contributed a lot to Miami, but as it keeps going and going and going, sure, he'll be your bulldog kind of guy that's the enforcer and everything like that and can hit some corner threes. But you can find that, it's not that hard to find. And on top of that, there's other veterans that you can probably get who are a better veteran presence as well. That doesn't have to be PJ Tucker, where you have to clear all this space just to get him. It's not worth just like dumping guys for absolutely nothing. Whereas the trade to get Melton was a good one. You get, like, Danny Green was a great teammate, all that kind of stuff. I liked Danny Green, but again, wasn't going to play. You get rid of that 23rd pick because with Doc Rivers, who doesn't usually play young guys as it is, that guy probably wasn't going to play at all. And you get a quality player out of Melton who will be the bench guard that they've needed for a long time.
Can I interject here as well?
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, I 110% agree. But I was just looking through it. Like, guys that the Sixers should be targeting, if they got Bruce Brown, that would be huge. Either the Martin twins.
Yep.
Tyus Jones, if for some reason they got him. So there are guys out there that can make a world of difference for that team. That they're like one or two, like Gary Harris. Harris would add, Terrence Ross. I still think is floating around. I think he's still on Orlando, but I think they want to move him. So if they can, like those types of players are what the Sixers need.
Right, and even as like backups or something, I would even take Thaddeus Young back. I would take Thad back as a backup 4 or whatever. Like, I mean, Thad pretty much does exactly what PJ Tucker does.
What if the Sixers were able to get like Gary Payton?
That would be amazing. That would be perfect, especially off the bench. Even if they got somebody like Joe Ingles, that would be a quality addition off the bench. Somebody like even Ricky Rubio coming off of his injury, that would be a nice bench piece. TJ Warren is another guy that's available that probably would be nice. And even
does he still have a foot?
I have no idea.
Bubble Jordan?
Yeah, I knew Mike was going to say that.
Chris Boucher is an unrestricted free agent.
The water boy.
Still in the league?
Yeah, apparently.
The water boy.
Exactly, but
what if they got like Marvin Bagley?
I'd be fine with Marvin Bagley too. Bryn Forbes is another one that could give you some quality minutes off the bench.
So basically everybody we want to go to the 76ers.
Well, I mean, I look at some of these and I'm like, all right, they don't need Josh Jackson or Robin Lopez or Jalen Smith.
Nick Batum.
I mean, Nick Batum is a quality. Nick Batum is like that Swiss Army knife that like any championship contending team could use off their bench.
I mean, so basically we said Tyus, Bruce Brown, the Martin twins, Boucher, Thaddeus Young, Nick Batum. There were 7 guys, but I think we named like 15. So,
which means it shouldn't be hard.
Gary Payton, there was 8. So if they signed all these guys, that'd be great.
Oh yeah, they'd be championship immediately.
No, but that's what the Sixers need, though. If the Sixers sign little pieces like that, it's going to go a long way for them.
Exactly. Another person that there has been rumors of the Sixers signing again is Andre Drummond, because he's back to being an unrestricted free agent. Victor Oladipo, what's going to happen with him? I mean, he was showing he could play a little bit again, but we haven't seen it over the course of an entire season yet.
Montrezl Harrell when he's not selling drugs.
Exactly. But just aside from the Sixers, there's still, like
allegedly
Mike was saying,
selling drugs. Allegedly.
Right. There are some really nice role players in here that, I mean, a lot of different teams could really use. Like, there's still, I was just looking, there's still, like, Dwayne Dedmon, who could be used anywhere. You got Markieff Morris from Miami that could still give you some minutes off the bench. There's still Blake Griffin is an unrestricted free agent. I mean, he had some quality minutes as a bench player.
He's got
from the bench, he's not bad.
He's good for energy for 5 minutes. That's
Nobody can take a charge better than Blake Griffin.
True.
Fine.
And I tell you, if they get PJ Tucker, they'll have that corner 3 locked up. Look out.
Also true. Lonnie Walker is a restricted free agent, but it seems like San Antonio probably won't re-sign him. So
They don't even want to pay DeJounte Murray.
Exactly. So Lonnie Walker could go to like a pretty decent team, come off the bench, and be a very good energy guy for a good team. So there are a lot of good rotational pieces, and what's going to happen is those rotational pieces probably won't be signed until like the trades start happening. Once the trades happen, then those rotational pieces will start getting signed because of the movement and everything, and then we'll see exactly what happens. But the main free agents you have to look for are, like Dennis was saying, Bridges, if Charlotte is actually going to match any contracts for him. Brunson, which obviously the Knicks are going hard for. What is Dallas going to do with him? And then Levine. So those 3 are like the main big names that you just...
Levine, I see Levine's going back to Chicago. He's not going anywhere.
I don't think he will either. I don't see anyone forking up the money for him.
And I honestly don't see a lot of teams like... I mean, Bridges was a great player last year, but he had one good season compared to his other ones. So, to me, I would be also hesitant to offer him a max deal. If he decides to walk, okay, let's see ya. Thank you for your service, but one season, it's not worth it for me to offer him that kind of money.
And if you're going to have Bridges, you need to have a very, very high level distributing point guard too. He's like, because to me, Bridges is sort of like John Collins in the fact that your point guard has to be the guy that's setting him up, because if he's required to set up his own offense all the time, it's not going to be great.
I mean, John Collins.
Clearly, somebody here hasn't watched Miles Bridges.
No, I'm not saying their play styles and all that kind of stuff are similar. I'm just saying if you're depending on them to be the guy to create any offense, they're not dependable the whole time.
Again, he hasn't watched Miles Bridges.
Oh,
I'm not just saying this because he's on my fantasy team. Miles Bridges, yes, I agree with you to the extent he has a similar style to John Collins in that lob city, high flying pick and roll guy. Yes, I agree with that. But Miles Bridges can create his own offense. Now, he's not necessarily you don't want him doing that ISO pull up mid range jumper game. No.
Right.
But he's very crafty at getting to the rim. He can finish with both hands. He has a good floater. He can create his own offense to some extent. He's not completely like a John Collins, Amari Stoudemire type. He has a little bit of playmaking to him.
Yes. No, he is better offensively than John Collins. He can create his own offense. I'm just saying that's not something you want to depend on.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
But I don't want no Miles Bridges slander going on. That's all.
Well, he's a good player. I just want to pay him a max.
Right. I agree.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Nah, I completely agree.
He just peaked at the wrong time. If he had one more season of 20 points a game, then we could talk about it. And I mean, so that's a risk that any team has to, be willing to take.
If you were a GM go ahead.
No, I said shit. If it doesn't work out for Brunson, maybe the Knicks could fucking get him. I don't know.
True. I was gonna say, if you were a GM and you had to decide between Levine, Bridges, and Brunson, who would you offer the most money and most years to?
I would say
Levine gets hurt Bridges a good bit lately too.
I would say Brunson, to be honest with you.
And Mike, you said Bridges?
Yeah.
But I think... Go ahead, honey. Sorry.
I think I would probably agree with Brunson.
That man, no.
Dennis loves backup point guards more than anything.
Dennis is like Philadelphia fans and backup quarterbacks.
But yeah, I mean, Levine does get hurt a lot. And that scares me.
Yeah.
And Bridges, Bridges is a good player. Just like I said, he just had that one season. If I saw another season out of him, yeah, then I would definitely do it. But not right now.
Right. And the thing with Levine too is, while he is a decent shooter, if you take away, the brunt of his athleticism, he's not like that special of a player. Like, the biggest thing about him is his athleticism and his explosiveness. So the moment that starts getting, muddy because of these injuries and everything like that, then you're going to pay him all this money for what? To stand around and be like a catch and shoot guy?
Yeah, I'd rather definitely have Brunson, but the Knicks, man, if the Knicks don't get him, that's going to be embarrassing. They can't get anybody.
I mean, honestly, though, like, who really wants to be on the Knicks? If we're being real.
Nobody. I mean, it's a fucking circus all the time.
It's like how disrespectful that was when Jaden Ivey was begging the Kings not to draft him. I feel like the Knicks are like, the only reason the Knicks aren't on the same level as the Kings is because they play in Madison Square Garden and they're in New York City.
Right. I mean,
but if they were, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, at least the Knicks have been good.
Right.
At one point, like historically, they've been good. When were the Kings good? When they had Vlade Divac and Chris Webber?
Yeah, but even then, it's not like they won anything.
Yeah, but when everybody talks about, like, the Kings, are like, we so would have won the championship if it wasn't for Shaq.
Right.
Like, that's all you hear.
Oh, yeah. Well,
we had Vlade and Chris Webber and,
Knicks fans feel the same way when they had Patrick Ewing, because then there was Michael Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys who, good thing he couldn't keep his gambling in check and had to take 2 years off to, go play baseball. So, like Hakeem Olajuwon and, those guys could actually win a ring. But other than that, like, Jordan would have won 8 in a row.
Probably. Yeah.
No, there's no probably about it. He would have.
Yeah.
That's why when people talk about, that the LeBron versus Jordan, I'm like, I wish Michael Jordan didn't take, those 2 years off so he could have won 8 in a row so that I could have lived my life and not had to have the fucking debate on whether the ass clown LeBron is better than Michael Jordan.
I agree. The debate's pretty much dead in the water. It's not going in.
No, some people want to keep. Yeah, I mean, people just they're so convinced that LeBron is better than Jordan.
Oh, I know. And they're delusional.
He ain't no Kobe. I can tell you that. He's not even better than Kobe. So
true. But I think that is it for us. Unless you guys have anything else to get off your chest.
Kobe's overrated, but that's it.
Here we go.
No, we're not doing it. Have a great night.
Yep. As always, thank you everybody for listening. Make sure you subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications on YouTube. Follow us on Twitch. Subscribe, rate, review everywhere else you get your podcast. We appreciate it. Thank you for listening to the Atlantic Files, the #1 podcast and the #1 division in the NBA. Brought to you by the Underdog Sports Podcast Network. We'll catch you guys next week. Peace.